Okay, good morning again. It's 6:22 on October 18th, Wednesday. I'm Jackie Odess-Gillette, and I'm going to read from pages 28 and 29 from the book Summons of the Lord of Hosts, a collection of tablets to the kings and rulers of the world, which Bahá'u'lláh wrote during his exile and incarceration in Adrianople, sometime around 1865 to 1868. Among the infidels are those who have repudiated his self and risen up against his cause, and who claim that these divine verses are contrived. Such also were the objections of the deniers of old, who now implore deliverance from the fire. Say, woe betide you for the idle words that proceed from your mouths. If these verses be indeed contrived, then by what proof have ye believed in God? Produce it, if ye be men of understanding. Whensoever we revealed our clear verses unto such men, they rejected them. And whensoever they beheld that which the combined forces of the earth are powerless to produce, they pronounced it sorcery. So, what Baha'u'lláh is saying here is that in every age, every time God has sent a messenger to the world, there are those who have resisted and denied it and done whatever they could to oppose it. Again, he says, such also were the objections of the deniers of old. This has happened over and over again, who now implore deliverance from the fire. And as I mentioned before, my understanding of the fire is it's the fire of regret, the deep, unquenchable fire of realizing what has escaped us, what action we could have taken in our lives that could have made things better for people, whether it's our own children or those of the world, that we, out of our own attachment to self and rebelliousness and reactivity, did not take. And when we realize that, when we really see how we could have helped and how we listened instead to our insistent self, we find ourselves consumed in the fires of regret. So how much more so is that true when we pass from this life to the unseen world, and we no longer have the ability to make right what we made wrong. So let's do it now. Let's look at our reactivity now and get it under control. Let's look at our ego now and get it under control, so that the rest of our lives can be freed up to help and do good and love. What aileth this people that they speak of that which they understand not? They raise the same objections as did the followers of the Quran when their Lord came unto them with his cause. They verily are a rejected people. They hindered others from appearing before him who is the ancient beauty, and from sharing the bread of his loved ones. Approach them not, one was even heard to say, for they cast a spell upon the people and lead them astray from the path of God. They help in peril the self-subsisting. By the righteousness of the one true God, he who is incapable of speaking in our presence hath uttered such words as none among the former generations hath ever spoken, and hath committed such acts as none of the unbelievers of bygone ages have ever committed. So I find this paragraph very interesting, because he says, what aileth this people that they speak of that which they understand not? Now I want to say something about that. I have friends, many friends, who say that they don't believe in God. That's fine. I don't have a problem with people not believing in God. But what baffles me is, I don't believe in God. I know God. I have a relationship with God. I pray and things happen. I have troubles and I go to God with my troubles, and my troubles are dissipated. They're alleviated. Or I'm shown what to do every time. Well, you can say that's my imagination, and maybe it is. I don't think so. But whatever it is, it works. So why would you deprive yourself of it? So this whole business of, they speak of that whereof they understand not. It's like, if you don't know God, don't presume to make judgments about it. You can find out if God exists very easily. All you have to do is put yourself out there. Reach out to this unknowable essence that we call God and ask to be shown. Ask with a pure, sincere heart. If you do that, you're going to be shown. And if you're not willing to do that, then don't talk about what you don't know about. I can't always say that to them. I try to, but it doesn't come out well. So he says, they raise the same objections as did the followers of the Quran, or the followers of Moses, or the followers of Jesus. Then he said, they hindered others from appearing before him who is the ancient beauty. So that's one of the titles of Bahá'u'lláh. But it could just as easily be the title of all the other manifestations of God. They represent this ancient beauty, this light that shines in the world from age to age to help and educate and guide humanity. And sometimes what they say is, approach them not because they're magicians. They're casting a spell. Baha'u'lláh is saying, he who is incapable of speaking in our presence. So these are people who, when they were in the presence of Baha'u'lláh, they couldn't even utter a word. And then they go out and say these kinds of things. The very words and deeds of these men bear eloquent testimony to the truth of my words. If ye be of them that judge with fairness. In other words, just what they do and what they say, if you look at their lives in relation to the teachings of Baha'u'lláh, it proves itself. Whosoever attributeth the verses of God to sorcery hath not believed in any of his messengers, hath lived and labored in vain, and is accounted of those who speak that of which they have no knowledge. So, if you attribute Baha'u'llah's verses to sorcery, basically, if you reject any of God's messengers, you're rejecting all of God's messengers, because all of God's messengers say the same thing, and all of God's messengers talk about the ones that'll come after them and before them. So you can't think that, you are a believer, say, in Christ, or in Abraham and Moses, or in Muhammad, for instance, or in Buddha. And if you ignore Baha'u'llah's words, which looks like it's coming out backwards, if you ignore Baha'u'lláh, you're ignoring all of them, because they all speak the same language. They all speak from the same place of being animated by the light of God. So you can't accept one and reject the others, and without rejecting the one that you say you believe in. And it says those who do that, who say that Baha'u'llah's verses are sorcery, have lived and labored in vain. You're wasting your life. If you want to find God, if you want to find truth, if you want to find spirituality, then open to this new revelation from God. Because this revelation is the one that's going to explain to us as human beings what we need to do now in this day to address the problems of today's world, all the problems that everybody is seeing and complaining about. Baha'u'lláh has told us exactly what to do about this. So if you want to know, open to this new message and investigate. And is accounted of those who speak of that of which they have no knowledge. So he's saying, if you haven't looked into it, if you haven't investigated it, if you haven't opened yourself to it, don't judge. Say, O servant, fear God, thy Creator and thy Fashioner, and transgress not against him, but judge with fairness and act with justice. So again, this concept of fearing God. And the idea is that there are repercussions for everything that we do and everything that we say and actually everything that we think. So have a healthy respect for truth by keeping an open mind. Those whom the Lord hath endued with knowledge shall find, in the very objections raised by the unbelievers, conclusive proofs to invalidate their claims and vindicate the truth of this manifest light. Say, would ye repeat that which the unbelievers uttered when a message came unto them from their Lord? Woe betide you, O assemblage of foolish ones, and blighted be your works. Okay, and now finally I'm going to end today's session with this next paragraph, which sort of takes it in a more beautiful direction. O ancient beauty, turn aside from the unbelievers and that which they possess, and waft over all created things the sweet savors of the remembrance of thy beloved, the exalted, the great. This remembrance quickeneth the world of being, and reneweth the temples of all created things. Say, he verily hath established himself upon the throne of might and glory. Whosoever desireth to gaze upon his countenance, lo, behold him standing before thee. Blessed be the Lord, who hath revealed himself in this shining and luminous beauty. Whosoever desireth to hearken unto his melodies, lo, hear them rising from his resplendent and wondrous lips. And unto whosoever desireth to be illumined by the splendors of his light, say, seek the court of his presence. For God hath verily granted you leave to approach it, as a token of his grace unto all mankind. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And if you have any questions or comments, please submit them. And it was lovely being with you this morning.